Awesome.
All right, I'm here now. Sorry for the rough start. Welcome to what we're now calling the Origin Community Call. Of course, we started doing this a couple of months ago, been focused primarily on DeFi and Origin Dollar, but we'll gradually be spending more time during this meeting highlighting NFT Launchpad, talking about other projects that we're working on. So if you haven't already, please join our Discord server at originprotocol.com/discord. That's where you'll find our back channel for this meeting and where we plan the agenda during the week. Speaking of the agenda, today we'll be talking about immediate priorities for the next phase of OUSD, get updates on the future of OGN staking, dive into OUSD analytics, and then hear about a new direction for the OUSD dApp. Before we get into all of that, let's start by reviewing any highlights and lowlights from the past week. Josh, do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, so continuing to make progress with Curve. We upgraded our A factor from 10 to 100. Basically, this flattens the bonding curve on the pool so that you can buy larger amounts of USD with less slippage. This went through a governance proposal and then was executed and ramped up over the past week. We've also added the APY to the list of factory pools. So if you click on the link in the notes here, or if you go to curve.fi and go to factory pools, you'll see that there's now the APY shown based on what you'd get for the CRV rewards, as well as the rewards you get from OGN. And we put $1,000 worth of OGN there just for testing purposes. We also have a new claim OGN button on our pool. So if you go to the withdrawal tab on our pool, you'll see there's two buttons, one for claiming your CRV rewards and one for claiming your OGN rewards. Those are two separate buttons because they're two completely different contracts that you have to claim from to get those rewards. Some of the downsides, we're still waiting on Andre and his team to whitelist OGN on the bribe tool. We've thrown up $1,000 reward for anyone who votes for us for CRV rewards, but so far no one has done it. We put up $1,000 reward last period, and then we were the only people who voted for it, so we got our $1,000 back. That's obviously not the outcome we want. We'd like to share that with other people. But yeah, we're just waiting for them to whitelist it. They have a whitelist because they don't want poop coin showing up in the list, but they're being a little slow to get that added. They're also working on including the factory pools, which is what we have with our OUSD pool. We're working on including those with the main pools that show on the curve.fi homepage. I talked to them over the weekend. They're actively working on figuring out how to bring those in. So should expect to have that in the near future, which is pretty cool. That's it for me on highlights and lowlights.
How about anyone else? Any positive or negative things from the past couple of weeks that you'd like to recognize?
I'm happy that they agreed to audit the Solidity version upgrade at no additional cost and fitting into this existing contract, so that was good. And the Flipper continues to be used. People are making multiple swaps a day with it.
Totally, and I've been keeping an eye on KuCoin, which is one of the two centralized exchanges where you can get OUSD, specifically if you are not located in the US. And it looks like the peg has been held around $1 pretty well for the past couple of weeks. So just something, there's not a ton of volume there, but something that's important to keep an eye on. Anything from anyone else? If not, feel free to interrupt me, but otherwise I'll jump into sprint planning.
Do you want me to talk about the Inspiration 4 stuff now or a little bit later? I saw it later on the agenda, Micah.
It's up to you. We can cover NFTs later or highlight it now if you want.
I'll just highlight it right now since I think it was such like a really cool event for us as a company, but also the broader community. The launch with Inspiration 4 and SpaceX went off really well. In particular, it was a bit of a surprise to us, but we had these very low priced Polygon NFTs at $4 that were just about getting the community involved. And those things sold like really, really fast. So we sold over 63,000 of them. I think that is almost for sure a new record for most NFTs of a single NFT being sold. And I think the other thing that's really exciting about it is it adds a data point for us, confirming that when we added a Polygon Layer 2 as an alternate chain to our NFT Launchpad, that it's probably a good bet. And so there are a number of other high profile drops that are now going to be incorporating Polygon with credit card purchase. No one's really doing it in the same way we're doing it. And so we think this is another tool set that could be pretty useful. And it'll also kind of inform our later thinking on, other cross-chain type stuff as well. So that was great. And overall, we raised, $100,000 for St. Jude, built new artist relationships. Everyone was really, really happy with the results. We're really happy that we did this, even though we didn't take any fees or anything on it. So just building a little bit more momentum and expect, somewhat similarly structured drops, but with, different names and with for-profit economics coming up.
Totally, and thanks again to Chase and Aaron and everyone else who helped make that one a big success. It was very fulfilling for all of us in a lot of ways, I think. And one thing that you didn't mention, Matt, is that we actually saw a decent bit of secondary marketplace activity between the time that the primary sale ended and when the NFTs were minted. So that's something we want to go a little deeper on and make sure that we have features that are conducive to trading on the secondary marketplace that we have on every artist site. Mark, I think you might be unmuted. Did you want to add anything?
No, sorry.
No problem. Cool. So we're wrapping up a 2-week sprint on Wednesday and starting a new one on Thursday. We've got a list of projects in the meeting notes. It'd be great to get suggestions from everyone for what to prioritize over the next couple of weeks. But instead of going through that right now, I think we should talk through each of the high priority things that need to get done as soon as possible now that our Opens Up on the audit is wrapping up and we're preparing to aggressively grow OUSD usage and have the liquidity mining campaign. So that list, just to run through it really quickly, is deploying new contracts, relaunching the Aave strategy, re-enabling OGN buyback, launching the convex curve strategy, updating OUSD precision, verifying the correctness of everything before we move funds, extending the time lock to 48 hours, and then enabling Chainlink keepers specifically for daily rebases. So I'm not sure what's the best way to approach this, but maybe Daniel, if you want to speak to any one of those, maybe we could go one by one through them, or Tom, either one.
Sure, I'll start. I think to some extent there's a definite order to this. We can start deploying new contracts now, or as soon as we're ready to do that. The Aave V2 and the OGN buyback are ready to go. We still don't actually have the audit yet, and we'd just like to actually have it in hand before we actually start switching over. They've basically done everything. We just don't have an official in-hand final PDF. They've said that they'll have that to us today or tomorrow, which was nice that they threw in some extra work into that. But we don't actually have that in hand yet. But the deployment of the contracts, there's nothing beyond having the audit in hand. I think we can even start the deployment without having that. Then convex and upgraded precision can be after that, as well as the correctness in that whole precision upgrade part. The time lock extending, I think, should also go at a minimum after we've deployed the new the main set of new contracts, possibly after the correctness upgrade is complete, or
I feel like we do that
OUSD.
last after we've done everything else. We do that because after we do that, it's going to make things slower for ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, +1.
Yep. The chain link keepers are unrelated to our current code, or that there's no dependencies between them. So that we're just working through with them. We deployed a second revision on the contracts, and we've been waiting for them to approve it. I talked to them this morning, and they're giving us extra gas to do the harvests, but that's going to take, or they're having to redo some of their own stuff in order to do that. We'll need to figure out a permanent way to fund it. I've just been test funding it right now. We'll need to figure out how we actually fund that, which may be a discussion for later on in the meeting. But that's essentially, that one's essentially separate than the rest of the main flow. So it's very independent from. Back to you, Micah.
Cool. Thanks for walking through all of that. Tom, I know you've been out for a few days, but anything you wanted to add or shed any light on where we stand with this stuff?
No, it all sounds good. The only thing I guess I would add is it'd be cool to try and get some of the legacy Oracle code out, just because it's a bit confusing to figure out what we're actually using. There's a whole bunch of the mixed Oracle stuff.
Yeah, I'm good tossing those contracts. They haven't been used for a while, or they're not. Although they're still on the network, the contracts are not calling them.
Yeah, agreed. I think it makes sense to remove that code. It's always in the GitHub history, so if we need to fish it from there, we can. One question I had for the team is, are we blocked on running the migration on the fork? I know, Daniel, you've been literally banging your head on this. Pictures you posted. So yeah, what can we do? Like, is there help? Is there like something we should be looking at?
I'm thinking that maybe if Tom tries with a fresh pair of eyes, it'll just work. Or so I have a new approach to try this afternoon to get it to go. I do think fork testing before deploying is super useful. In the absolute, just spin up a side Brownie instance and test things out. It's just not as cleanly integrated into our environment, and doesn't so much test the actual deploys, although it does test the contracts. But yeah, I'm continuing to work on that. It has slowed me down for a couple of days there, and maybe if somebody has a fresh pair of eyes on it, everything will just fall into place.
So got it, yeah. So the status is we have the migration files, the deployment scripts, and they are just failing on the fork, but that's the blocking issue?
Yes, anything new is failing on the fork. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And maybe we don't have the mass migration script yet. Maybe Tom and I can catch.
Okay.
We don't have the mass migration scripts written for all the contracts to be redeployed.
Okay, I've got follow up with Tom on the migration. Any other questions or comments about immediate engineering priorities or sprint planning?
I just get like a quick comment regarding the fork thing. It's probably not you. Now that we're like some things behave differently. For example, you couldn't before. I'm pretty sure you didn't need to. There's a call you need to make if you want to mimic one of the signers, and usually like the default signers, you didn't need to, for example, do that for those. But now, for example, you need to. So I don't know what exactly is I don't know the context. I just remember that that's not your problem, but just maybe it's relevant.
Yeah, things are definitely.
All right, Josh, do you want to talk quickly about the future of OGN staking and how that ties into liquidity mining?
Yeah, so as we're planning to do liquidity mining campaigns, we're going to be ending the current staking program that we've had running for quite some time now. Domen is working on implementing the new UI changes for that. We have a near final version of that, but I'll link to in the notes here to Zeppelin, where you can see those. And then UPenn is working on making the changes on the contract for that. One of the things we're going to be including with that deploy on the smart contract for staking is allowing people to transfer their stakes to a new wallet. And this is something we've gotten requests for from people who have been tricked into revealing their private keys to their wallet and are looking for some way to rescue those funds. I think the way UPenn implemented it is with a double signature. So Origin will sign the approval and then give the user that signature then can pass to the smart contract, and then with the double signatures, that wallet will then be updated to a new wallet of their choosing. That PR is out for review. If anyone wants to take a look and give any comments or thoughts on that.
As Josh mentioned, those are both linked in the notes. I assume somebody shared that link in our back channel in Discord. Thank you to whoever might have done that. And I just wanted to mention, as always, if you don't have access to our Zeppelin mocks, I think we have to grant access to each account there. So just ping me on Discord or someone else, and I'm sure we can open that up so you can take a look. Domen, would you like to show what you've been working on for the analytics side?
Yes, let me share my screen.
Can't wait.
Okay, I think this is the right one. Okay.
And everybody will have to click watch stream, and then I think you might have to click end it after Domen's done or something like that.
Okay.
I can see your screen, Domen. That's good.
Thanks. Okay, interrupting if something's not working for somebody. Okay. So currently with the analytics, we can kind of break it down to like on-chain analytics, which we can always query back and reprocess and stuff like that, and DApp, Google Analytics, part of analytics, which used to also be, we used to also use Mixpanel for that, but now we're only using Google Analytics. And it was kind of like needed some sort of revamp because we weren't really sending in the events that were optimal for Google for Google Analytics to process, because there's like a specific format in which you send events in, and some default processing and graphs and categorization already happens on those, and we weren't taking advantage of that. So one of the things, so how we currently have it structured is these are like all the events that we are currently tracking, that we are now tracking in the OUSD, and they're broken down to various categories, which help us to filter stuff later on, and I'll show you what the issue is and why the need for categories. So we have like general categories that are related to wallet connects and mailing lists and stuff like that. Navigation categories, which change the page which you're on, for example, to jobs, to analytics, to docs, stuff like that. Settings categories, which are related to the flow, where you change the transaction routes that are picked for you by the DApp. That's the new thing, where you can swap either using Flipper or OUSD or Uniswap and so forth. and if you do anything from the settings drop down, like price tolerance change or gas setting. And then the most important category, which I'm sure we're going to expect the most, is like the whole swap, the whole swap part of the user experience, which would start, like anytime user would attempt to swap from one coin to another, and there are like various stages when users can drop off. Maybe to better understand, it's cool to check it, this graph. So basically, you can either start one of the two ways. We used to call this mint or redeem. So it's either swap from OUSD or swap to OUSD. We just use two events. I'm going to show you later in the Google Analytics, just to more easily to more easily segment when people are minting OUSD and redeeming, and to have like a better overview of so we can just separate mints and redeems. And then if user is doing this for the first time for that specific coin on that specific contract, they go usually through the approval steps, which is currently still a modal in the dApp. So there's a modal that opens up. So it's kind of something we still have from the past, because we used to, sometimes you need to approve more than one coin, but we're probably going to get rid of most of this, because the approval step is just going to be one button, similar to what you see on Uniswap. So that is bound to change probably in the next 2 weeks. But here are the approval steps. So when you show the model, you approve the specific coin, and then you click the swap on that model, and the model closes. And it's pretty cool that we can have like control to see if there's like something, some specific point where users drop off, which would be like pretty cool indication of either like an error in the app or like a faulty user experience or something like that. Then there's like this event that's fired, which fires like before we send the transaction to the wallet, and then whatever is the outcome of that. So we used to not track errors, which was a bad decision at the time, but now we track. That part is not here graphed out, but for approve step and for transaction step, we track either success, cancel, or failure, and the reason for the failure. And now to maybe better illustrate how that looks in Google Analytics. So one thing I was like really hoping that is going to be useful is like these behavior flows. This is something that that Google Analytics generates by itself, and I'm assuming it does a pretty good job, where you have a lot of pages and few custom events that happen on specific pages, but we behave a lot like a single page application where most of the meat happens on the like swap page, and users don't really navigate out of it. So this turned out, at least for me, to be semi-useful to barely not usable, because there are like all these general navigation and wallet connection events that are just not grouped or sorted in a way where you could kind of get something useful out of it. So I suspect that what we'll mostly be using is a more like rudimentary, basic events overview. And here is, for example, here's going to be shown why categories are useful, because when we click, for example, on the swap, we're like here only interested in the swap page. So all the events that you see here are the ones from this graph, and these are the ones that we're also more the most interested in. Currently, we have like very low number of those events, so not much useful can be derived from that, but there is, the data is already in, so we can expect some of the stuff, right? So we can, for example, if we check on swap to OUSD, we can see that 9 total events have been fired, and that some of and that some of all the values, so all of the mints in the dApp were 133K, right? So that's going to be like very useful, where we're going to be comparing that to the off-chain analytics, for example, and out of that we can derive, how much swapping happens on the dApp and how much happens obviously elsewhere, not through the dApp. And what else? And for example, we can see these approval steps and check, just from the count of those events, we can see where the drop off happens, or we can see how many approvals were successful. Here, for example, one was canceled, one failed, and if we inspect this one, I don't know if there's going to be like a useful error message. Cannot say. Okay, so for example, here's like an interesting error message that's obviously an error in the dApp, and we can investigate and see what the problem was there. So yeah, these are more or less the setup we currently have for dApp analytics, and in the current state, it should allow us to answer all of the questions of where the drop-offs happen, and maybe help us focus on the areas we need to approve inside the dApp. Questions?
Great work, Domen. Thanks for going through all that. Anybody have questions or comments for Domen?
No, it's nice to have that level of detail. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, what's the percentage of our traffic coming from Domen, on the OUSD?
Yeah, let me see. I think it's 50-50 or something like that. So this is only from the current, okay, no, so this is total. It's not limited by date. So seems like 52% mobile, 47 desktop.
Interesting. I'd be interested in knowing also, for people who do transactions, how many of these are from mobile or versus desktop. I would assume still a lot of it is from desktop. Just to understand a little bit, like what we're looking at.
Those are the sorts of questions we want to be able to answer, because if we get a ton of mobile traffic coming to the homepage, but they're not Web3 enabled, that's very different than if we have a bunch of Web3 enabled mobile browsers getting to the swap page and not doing transactions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's that's one of the things I kind of have like mixed experiences here on Google. For example, one of the advantages supposedly of this behavior flows, right, is that you can set like all these sort of different different dimensions where the graph is displayed out of. For example, here we can say just display the graph out of mobile dimension, and it's going to show you this group is starting out as a desktop, and this group is starting out as mobile, and what events are emitted in what order. For example, this would be highlighting only the mobile events, right? And I was hoping if I set a category that's only gonna show like the swap events, so the thing, so the ones that are with related to swapping and approval and everything. Okay, so this looks better. The last time I was checking
the top events page, we should be able to see, instead of looking at the flow, if we just go to the top events category on the left side, and then go to the swap, and then keep your current dimensions. But if right now we're on this flow page, but if we just look at events and just look at your swap success events, then we should just be able to see which were which, because now we have a category for each kind.
So we can set like mobile, including tablet. Okay, so we can. Is this what you meant, Daniel? Maybe. So the view we were checking out before, but just seems to be broken down by if users.
Well, right now,
Well,
if we take that one out down there, and up top you have, the swap.
Maybe we can schedule
It's
like
probably the
a.
wrong time for this discussion, but
No,
Yeah,
this is
sorry.
great. No, I'm really glad we're doing this. I mean, this is a great opportunity for anyone who is really familiar with Google Analytics to watch this video, see an opportunity to jump into our Discord and help out here. Thanks again, Domen, for doing all the heavy lifting. As you mentioned earlier, it's a little bit of an interesting situation where the on-chain data is what we really care about in the grand scheme of things, but that we can go query at any time. This off-chain data for our dApp specifically, we have to collect all the data up front, or we're not going to have it to be able to query. And it's just bigger picture. It's an interesting circumstance to be in DeFi. Operating a protocol where all of our usage could come through other dApps. Everyone could be buying and selling OUSD on Uniswap or Curve or wherever the case is. It's not like a traditional e-commerce storefront where everybody has to come through our point of sale or something. But if people are coming to our dApp, we definitely want to know what issues they're running into and how we can improve the funnel to make it easier for them. So, yep.
Just to maybe answer, sorry, I clicked this. I shouldn't. So just to answer the question, sorry, I messed up the navigation. So yeah, we can check exactly what the value was of so of the users who use mobile and who don't. And if we investigate the event, we're going to even see what stable coins were used and like the total amount for those stable coins. So I'm sure the off-chain analytics is going to be a lot more useful, but it's pretty cool because this is all, nothing needs to be done here, right? So but by default, these things are gonna that we're checking out right now are gonna work.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and thanks for walking us through all of it here today.
Cool.
Let's.
Yep. Sorry, just one more thing. So if somebody's like very well versed in Google Analytics, Daniel, you seem to be. I'd love to schedule like a one-on-one. Maybe.
Yeah, let's talk tomorrow morning.
Cool. I'd love to dive through the events and pages and like see what's your approach.
Or we just play with it and see what we figure out.
All right. Cool. Thanks.
I like that strategy. All right. Everybody can click close stream. Oh wait, what happened? I think we're good. It asked me for it asked me for feedback, and I thought I ended the call somehow. That would be something I would do. All right, I think we're in good shape. Let's shift the conversation to a potential new direction for the dApp. Speaking of the dApp that we were talking about measuring there, Josh, do you want to talk about where we might go with it?
Yes, indeed. So we often talk about Origin Dollar in terms of being a high-yield savings account. It's one of the ways we describe it. And the idea here is that it's time we actually make it look like one. What if loading up Origin OUSD.com in the browser felt like you were signing into your bank account, where you can see your balance, but then you can also see your own personal history of how much you're making from holding Origin Dollar every day. And part of this is, yes, we want to show transparency into how the protocol is working, but more than anything, I want to know how it's working for me on a personal level. And as we start shifting to doing daily rebasing and having daily predictable yield being accrued, we want to actually show that on the dashboard as well, so that you would be able to have a line item for each time you have received Origin Dollar, every time you've sent Origin Dollar, every mint, every redemption, every time you've swapped on a different protocol, and also every time you've earned yield from a rebase. Even if it's just a few pennies, you can look at it and have a good sense of satisfaction that this is actually earning yield for you, and also give you a little bit more of a pulse on how that yield is trickling in. I just shared a mock-up from Ari in the discussion channel, so you can take a look at what this could look like. I think we'd probably use pills on the top instead of a single drop-down. But as you can see here, you've got different types of transactions that are all shown in this table view. You'd be able to filter on and off for the different types of transactions you want to be able to see here. And then an export button in the right corner where you'll be able to export that to a CSV. So if you're wanting to do your taxes, just have a better understanding, do your own analysis, very easy for you to get that data and do deeper analysis on your own.
Hey Josh, I just shared an updated graphic with you. Sorry I didn't get there quickly enough. So
cool. Oh, cool. Let me just share this in the discussion channel so that everyone else can see this. There we go. There's a version with the pills, so you can sort of see what that would look like, where you'd be able to filter on and off those different categories. So that way you could say, yeah, I just want to see mints and redeems, or I just want to see my sent and received, or I just want to see my yield. And then the export button would give you just those line items. And this will be just like your bank statement, right? Where you have a running total. Every time money comes in, your balance goes up. Every time money goes out, you see your balance go down. Every time you accrue yield, your balance goes up as well. But this gives you a lot more understanding of what's happening on the protocol and how it's impacting your personal financial situation. So one question I have here, and this is for Ari and for Matt and Micah, our product guys, is really how we want to fit this in with what we have on the DApp right now. Should this be your default page when you sign in? Is this like hidden in the transaction view? How does it fit with swapping? Do we want to try and be smart about showing it conditionally if you are an OUSD holder versus if you're not? How should we fit this in?
So, I mean, taking it back to the online banking example, I think if you go to a homepage, you should see summary numbers. And then if you want to drill down and get transaction history, you can do that. But from the top level, you might want to do other things like transfer, aka swap, move money around, send it to a friend, that kind of thing. So we've talked in the past about having a transaction history view. And I think in those conversations, we anticipated having it, behind a link of some sort. So that would be my instinct, at least. But we should certainly.
I agree with that. Yeah, I remember we did some explorations. Feels like many years ago, but they were hidden behind a link. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the online banking comparison is the right way to go.
Cool. So we will continue, finalizing these mocks, and figure out where we're going to put this on sprint planning. But this is kind of the next step, I think, on improving just the usability of the DApp itself. Any thoughts or feedback on this overall direction?
Yeah, I like it a lot. Maybe just some quick feedback. Probably there's going to be like a lot of yield rows.
Yep.
If yield happen daily, so we might think about, I don't know, how to maybe group them and be able to expand them and stuff like that. Because there's probably going to be like a swap and redeem, and then like, I don't know, maybe 150 yields.
Yep.
And then again some meaningful transactions. So yeah, that and I'm sure like stuff like pagination and stuff is gonna come in later. And not sure if we still want to use mint and redeem words, since we're kind of like sticking to swap. And we might also want to add what kind of contract was used for swapping. I don't know if that's required or not, or it's not necessary for this sort of breakdown.
Yeah, so on the abundance of yield line items, I view as a feature, not a bug, right? We want people to have a visceral view of like, wow, but I'm earning a lot from holding Origin Dollar. So that's a good thing. Obviously, that's where the toggles come into play at the top, right? So you can quickly toggle off all yield. There may be, but obviously we want to have like the aggregate number up in the top right there. Of what your lifetime earnings are. So that's important to show off as well. I think it's still valuable to show where the swap happened, right? So if it happened on Uniswap, we should show the Uniswap logo and show that. If it happened on our vault, we should say that it happened on our vault and that it was a mint or a redemption. I think the more precise and informative we can be here, the better.
I would add, as a pretty active OUSD user who tracks some of this stuff on my own, the next thing that it makes me want is more detail on things that affect the profitability of those positions. So, like, for example, if you were to buy some OUSD on a centralized exchange, you have fees associated with doing that. If you swap OUSD, you have gas costs associated with doing that. But I presume that we would not show those costs in your transaction history because this is all about what your OUSD balance is. Not really any action to take there, but that's where my mind goes as a user. Is looking at an analysis of my whole position as opposed to just my bank balance.
Yeah, and with like on Bank of America, if I click onto any one transaction, it expands it out a little bit just in line. And I envision us doing something like that where we would show you, the full addresses to and from. We'd show, the links to Etherscan. We'd show you what the gas costs are. We give you a little bit more information there than what we'd have to necessarily fit in that one line.
I love it. We've got about 15 minutes to go, and we should not necessarily try to take up a whole hour, but we got a few other topics to cover. Josh, did you want to talk real quickly about Chainlink and co-marketing?
Yeah, we had a great call with the Chainlink marketing team today, Max and myself. They are excited about the new Keepers integration that Daniel's been working on, and they're eager to help promote it when we're ready. So main channels for that are going to be AMA, English AMA, and we're also willing to do foreign language AMAs as well, in Chinese and Korean, and then promote us on their Chainlink social media. The big opportunity, which we're going to have to get approval for, is for us to do a guest blog post on Chainlink's blog, basically like a use case on how we were able to integrate Keepers. So we'll get back to you on that, but that's what we're shooting for on the Chainlink side. So obviously, big improvement as far as predictability for users. Will hopefully make it easier for exchanges to integrate us, but also just a good way for us to get the word out about this product as well.
Cool. I think the next thing on the agenda is Max wanted to talk about a possible additional option for insuring OUSD, for lack of a better term. Max, do you want to talk about risk harbor a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm not an engineer, so I don't really know the ins and out of how everything works, but Risk Harbor is backed by Pantera, who's an investor in Origin, and we met up with them recently at some of the meetups here in New York. And Risk Harbor has stablecoin peg protection, which seems pretty relevant to OUSD and would offer another alternative outside of Nexus Mutual. I'm connected with the team at the moment, and they're just looking into things around how we're integrated with Chainlink, which we already are, so it pretty much makes it good to go. And they also have something interesting where if we wanted, we could try to divert some of the yield of OUSD and put that towards automatically covering OUSD. Apparently there's a way that they could do that. So this would be something we'd have to discuss on another call. But if we wanted to try to do that, it sounds like Risk Hub would be the perfect piece for that. But yeah, I think next steps, I'm going to add Micah into the group and we'll learn a bit more about it. But things are going well with that. And then Nexus Mutual is going to be adding us hopefully soon as a yield token, which means that any coverage you get there will cover the underlying strategies as well as the OUSD protocol. That's pretty much it from my side.
I haven't looked at Risk Harbor in depth, although I'll just say similar to liquidity, it's often valuable to have it all centralized in one place because then you have more depth. I think the same is probably true when it comes to insurance products. It's probably better to have all of it in one provider versus having it split between multiple providers and then not having as much availability in both places. But we should probably dig in a little bit deeper before making any assumptions around that.
Yeah, I took a look at their site, and from a conceptual point of view, it seems to make a lot of sense. I'm interested to see what kind of rates it ends up working out at, but from a how it works, not getting into the contract side of the implementation, it seems like it could be a pretty useful thing. It seems to make a lot of sense the way they're planning on working.
Yeah, as far as the comment about taking some percentage of yield, automatically providing protection for everyone, but that's interesting. Whether we could do it on Nexus Mutual as well. We've also talked about adding a checkbox where if you check the box while you're minting, it goes ahead and buys some coverage for you for a specified amount of time. I think the first step there is just doing better customer development on how many people would actually choose that or want to do that. And if so, is it a game changer if we provide it for them versus having them go direct to Nexus Mutual when they actually want it?
Great points. It's another reminder that user research needs to be a focus, and it hasn't been lately. So I will not forget that. Thanks, Max, for surfacing that. And if you would just add Josh to that thread, and welcome to add me, but don't have to. And the last thing that was on the agenda was we had an informal proposal that Evan from Gumi, I think, had shared in our Discord, and he was hoping to get some, responses and some feedback on the idea of us integrating with idle finance, potentially letting idle manage our strategies and auto, allocation of strategies, that sort of thing. He wanted to get some feedback on that before making a formal proposal. So that is linked here in the notes. And I don't believe that he or anyone from the idle team is here by chance, are they? If you are, and I didn't see it, please just interrupt me. But otherwise, I'd encourage everyone to take a look at that proposal. Feel free to discuss that with Evan in Discord, and maybe we'll have him join us next week. I think we have one or two people joining us today for the first time. If anyone is interested, you're welcome to introduce yourself. Let us know how you ended up here, what you're excited about, what you're working on, that sort of thing. But don't feel obligated to. You're welcome to come back anytime and do that. But go ahead and interrupt me if you want to. And if not, then I think that's probably everything that we had on the agenda, since we already covered highlights from the NFT side of Origin from the past couple of weeks. I had one action item that stood out, which was Daniel to follow up with Tom on the migration issues and problems with his environment. Then looking at old action items, not sure if Coleman was able to join us. I don't think he's here, but we want to make sure that we reach out to the Argent wallet team. And then, Daniel, you did discuss the Solidity upgrade with Open Zeppelin team. It sounds like that went really well. Thank you for doing that. And thanks Domen for picking up where I left off on the analytics and metrics. I still need to write some tooltip content, which is embarrassing because I was going to do that like 2 months ago. I think we actually dropped 1 or 2 of those little help icons from the dApp. So Domen, please just like maybe just say, hey, here's these like 2 right here. Give me a little blurb and I'll crank it out. And then, of course, at some point we want to revisit Ledger Live and Uniswap token lists, stuff like that. But we can circle back on it next week. Anything that I missed or anything else that we didn't get to? Well, it's been real. Same time, same place next week. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Alan.
Have a good one. Bye.